So, first of all, I have to thank the Bank of Cyprus and the embassy to invite me, and you to come here to, I prefer to say, conversation than lecture. I hope that it will be more of a dialogue and feel totally free to interrupt, ask questions, because then I'll know exactly what is interesting for you. So a few words about my background, although a lot of information was already presented. I am actually an autodidact in animation. So I had the problems of any school. And if we'll talk about creativity, one of the problems is school from any kind for creativity. For the younger people, for the older people, and for the students. And so I had to look for my art by myself, because at that time in Israel there was no any department for teaching, for learning animation, so I had to invent the wheel by myself in a way. And that's the first thing. And I choose a specific, let's talk a bit about animation, why animation, and why creativity by animation. There is two things about animation, very interesting things. One, that it's not a specific one profession. When you are saying animation, it includes many different things. For example, storytelling, script writing, design or drawing, photography or directing, soundtrack. So when you're talking about animator, you talk about a person that most of the time know how and can work with all these different things. So actually it's a kind of interdisciplinary thing. And this is very unique because someone can express many different abilities in animation. That's why I decided to do animation and not something specific. There was a time in my life that I thought maybe I'll do pantomime or animation. I decided animation because it's so rich and so different, many different things. And the second thing about animation, that it's a very unique language. It's this language of animation crosses cultures, crosses ages, crosses genders. You can do in Japan piece of animation and people in Saudi Arabia will enjoy it not less than the Japanese. So it's an amazing medium to share ideas and humor or anything else with everyone in the world. So these two things makes animation a really very, very unique. So that's why I choose the animation. I'm doing animation for 40 years and teaching animation in art academies for 35 years. So this is a bit about the animation and this background. And now why plastilina? Although I directed and created the animation, drawing animation, and almost in any technique of animation, most of my works are from plastilina. And I want to say a few words about this magical material. And I'll also demonstrate later even longer. Plastilina, except of the fact that it's a very cheap, very common material, it's very easy to make anything of it, but the best quality for animation is that this material has no memory. And And I'll tell you what I mean by has no memory. For example, if you want to make a figure from a metal thread, and you want, there is a person from, metal thread, and you want to move his hand, so always you remember the former position. You want to move, but you always want to go back. So it's a struggle. And almost any material is struggle. Plasticine has no memory. It immediately forgets what it was before. So you make this and it's like that. You make this, it's like that. It's fantastic. And it's also fantastic for children. Why? And I'll tell you why. Because it's not threatening. Because you can create something, you don't like it, no memory of the last thing. But if you draw on paper, it's there. It's very difficult to change it. So children have the sense of, perfectionism. Many of them have perfectionism. And if it's not going to be perfect, I prefer not to do. Or perfect or nothing. And we'll talk a bit why. In plastilina, no problem. Not perfect. And again, not perfect. Now perfect. That makes this material totally different. Now, few things about creativity in children. Children are born creative. If you look at babies, at toddlers, at young children, and not interfering, it's amazing creativity. They can do anything from anything. They can build amazing imaginary worlds by themselves. What is the problem? That we interfere. In what way? It's an amazing thing. By giving them feedback, exaggerated feedback, wow, it's amazing, we start forcing them to try to make us satisfied. So they are losing the authenticity and want to make us happy. So they start going away of their creativity, and they want to get our reaction. And the second thing, one of the, as I found, of course it's only my impression, it's not after researchers. The second thing is that creativity works with minimalism, with limitation. When I was a child, I had two toys. One that my grandfather prepared. It was kind of shuffle of a big tractor made out of wood, and some toy, another tractor that I got from the United States, from metal. And all the rest I had to invent myself from anything I found. Now look at children room, and there are more than hundreds of objects from plastic, from anything. So it limits their creativity because they have everything. And if they do something, it's impossible to compare to the plastic stupid games that they got from $50 from not Japan, China, or I don't know what. So limitation are good. So if you want your child to be creative, throw 95-98% of the toys and leave him get away without it. And it's true also to students, and I'll tell you later how. So we talked about plastilina. What is the advantage of this material? Now, what happened? Also, limitation. When I started to work with plasticine, I worked on two lines of films. One is the commercials, that lot of money for short film, and the other is series of television, always low budget, lot of work with the short time, and I had to invent ways to succeed to produce film in no time. So at that point, some unique method was developed, and I want to demonstrate, and I'll explain you how it's done. I had, plasticine had this advantage that you move it and it stays, move it and it stays, and no memory. But also this is disadvantage, because when you want that such a figure will talk, after a while it destroys itself. So each shot is about 3 seconds average. In 3 seconds there is 75 frames, I'll say around 30 different positions, because for each second I have to do 12 positions and film it twice each one. Okay? So after a shot, the very beautiful, fresh figure become like that. So even if the animator, because it takes a long time to make 3 seconds, sometimes it's a whole day for 3 seconds. I'll tell you about it in a minute. So sometimes even the animator don't see that slowly the character deteriorated. But when you screen it in a real time, the beautiful character in 3 seconds become very, or not very, or a bit less. Afterwards, even less. So each shot I had to rebuild the character, but the character should look exactly the same as the old one. So the viewer will not see the change. So what is the method, generally? I design a character and not design and copy it. So I have same 2 characters. Now I take the first character apart, and each part of it I make a ball. So I have the exact amounts of plasticine for each part of the body. So I have a reference, and now when I build the new character, I know exactly what size of a ball to build the other one. So I want to show you this on the screen, and then it's better than words. I'll put it down here, and some other things. So what is here, you see here. One other thing. When I started to do animation, the basic equipment to create a professional film cost like an apartment in Jerusalem. At that time, it was around $30,000. In $30,000, you can buy an apartment of 2 rooms and in Jerusalem. So very few people could do that. So there were maybe 5 animators in Israel at that time. Today, you need a web camera. There is high definition web camera. It costs couple of dozens of dollars at the most. You have a free software from the internet. You have, light, like that. So in no money, you can produce professional films. So anybody can do it easily if he has the talent. Okay? But there are no restrictions of the cost of the equipment. So now let's go back to the method, and you see how easy it is. By the way, I'll do some demonstration. For that you need a bit, I'll try to do it here. In order to catch the attention of children, I tell them that, and I believe it, that plastelina is a magical material, as I told you, and I believe it. And so they say, no, it's very common material. No, everybody knows it. It's nothing magical. So I'll say, look at that. You see this ball? It's going to become the hand of Mickey Mouse, like the palm hand of Mickey Mouse. Okay, let's see. So I do, look at that. I do this, and there is a hand, and there is a finger. Okay? There is one finger. Now there is a ball with one finger. I do this, there is another finger. Okay. I'll tell you the secrets. Now there are two fingers. One is a bit longer and the second a bit shorter. So I move it like that. It looks like a head of a rabbit with not equal ears. Okay. Now there are two fingers. I'm doing that. There is a third finger. I'm telling you, it's a real magic material. Now I turn it like that, three fingers. Now I put the little hand on the big hand, and with my finger I press a bit, and now I do this. There is a fourth finger. By the way, if you once counted how many fingers Mickey Mouse have, you see that he have only 4 fingers. Okay? Now I'll come back to this hand later, but now I'll show you. Now they convinced that it's a magic material, and they are really willing to start working. So now I'll show you how I make from, and this is the secret, that all the characters, whether they look simple or very complicated, mouse or dragons or dinosaurs, are made only out of 3, maybe 4 basic forms. And what are the forms? Balls, hot dogs, pancakes. And in the worst case, the 4th one, carrots. So, first of all, when you say to the children, you don't have to know anything more than balls. Anyone can make a ball. Hot dogs, piece of cake, and piece of cakes. That's it. So now we'll see if it's true. Okay. So the first thing is that each basic part always starts from balls. And the reason why it always starts from balls, actually, there are 2 reasons. One, when you make a ball, you make the plastelina very, very smooth. Like it went out this moment out of the oven. And second, you can measure quantities. If you want 2 legs the same size, you don't have to measure it. You simply you make 2 equal balls. What is this? Why is this here? Okay. Like that. If I make 2 balls equal size, so I know that the same quantities, so every part starts always with ball. Now, I start with a ball, and then I'm going to do, by the way, a frog. A frog. Now I turn this ball into what we say, hot dog. Now I put this hot dog on the palm of my hand and squeeze it a bit with this part of the other palm. So this is the body of the frog. Now I want to open him a mouth. I simply press in this part of the body of the frog. Okay? Now, one of the things in my characters that it's minimum touches of the material. No correction at all. If it's not good, I make it from the beginning. And it's very easy, so it's very fast. So no correction, minimum touches. Now, I want to make him a tongue, so I put him aside and take the red plastelina, make out of it a little ball, as always start with a ball, make out of it a little hot dog, and then press it into a tongue. Now I put this tongue in the lower part of the mouth of the frog. Okay? Now I want to close his mouth, so I press on top of him, and if I do it right, he also smiling. Okay? Now I put him aside, and I want to prepare his eyes. So I take the yellow plastilina and make two eyes, two balls. One, and maybe I'll make them a bit smaller. So I'm still making only this very simple part. So now I put one eye, and then the second eye, first eye and second eye. And you see that another quality of the plastilina is that it's sticky, and I don't need any other material in order to do it. So now I want that he will be able to close his eyes, so I prepare two smaller light blue balls. And again, turn them into hot dogs and pancake, and cover each eye with this, like that. Okay. Now I want an eye pupil. I scratch with the tip of my nail a little tiny ball and stick it here. And again. It is simple like that. Okay, now for the legs. Again, now another green. I make two equal balls, one and two. Check that they are at the same. This is a bit smaller, so immediately I do this. And now turn them into hot dogs, or in this case maybe sausages. Okay. Now look how I join it. I join it to the lower part of the side, make one knee, and then okay, very, very simple. Again, and it's not the end of the story. Now for the hands. Two equal smaller balls. And again, one hot dog. And then the second one, and stick the first one to the back of the frog, and then the other one. Then now for the hands. This was the big hand. It's not exactly the right size for the frog, but the amazing thing about plastilina that you can make a perfect hand also in this size. Okay? And that's what I'll do. And then now I'll show you what I did when I did the magic. Actually, when I did this movement, I hide a smaller movement, which was this, making a little hot dog on top of this ball. And then, again, like that. And then the second one. And now, few words beside the simplicity of doing these characters. Now, many times, first of all, when I'm working with children, at the beginning, they want to do the exact same character as I did. But I immediately tell them, no, that's not the intention. The idea is that each frog, in this case, should be different. Because we are all human beings, and each face is totally individual. That's exactly what I want from the frog. So I take the weakness, the fact that they cannot imitate it exactly, and make it into advantage. And this is another thing about creativity. The idea that in each disadvantage there is a potential advantage. Even in raku, you know, the Japanese pottery, they are masters. When there is something wrong, they turn it to an advantage, and the things that are made with wrong thing become the most precious things. So take the disadvantage, make it to advantage. Discover new potential in the disadvantage. Okay? So this is the first thing. That I tell them it shouldn't be like me. Or many times they say, can I do it, the frog with red? Of course you can. All what I'm saying is only suggestion. You'll take it to any direction you wish. So there is no strict rules. Any suggestion is only a suggestion, and I'm encouraging different ideas, new ideas, and that makes the whole difference. Now, it looks very strict method, but no. At the beginning, they're doing it exactly as the method. By the way, in the book, it's I'll show you it in the camera. There are 7 books, and in the book it's exactly as I showed you, and the children catch it immediately. They don't have to read any text. You see, for example, the frog starts from the ball, turn into hot dog, then with the finger, and then bend it, and then the tongue, and then the eyes, and then the legs as we did, and then a bit simpler hands. And then in the next page there is a whole scenery that shows them that it's not limited to a frog. There is a whole world that could be built with these frogs. This is the frog, this is the pool, this is the friends of the frog doing great life. Okay? So at the beginning they are following the instructions, and in a very, very short time they start to invent their own characters with the same method. Next thing, so now I'll go to a bit with children, and then I'll check if there are questions, and I hope there are questions or remarks or anything. Now it's not finished with the characters. At the beginning, characters, and then their own characters. Now I tell them, now create an object that is connected with the character. So they start to invent objects connected with the character. And then make a little situation. So there are more than one figure, and what are the relations? So a story starts to build up. And then, okay, that is the situation now. Now what is going to be the next situation with this character? So the story develops. And now the next stage is animating. And children catch animation like that, the principle of animation like that. They start, it's a very, by the way, the free software in the internet, there are a few, one called Helium Frog, one called the Animator. There are, if you look for them, also in the smartphone there is free stop motion softwares. The minute they start moving and film, they catch the idea and they start to produce films. So you will be amazed how quickly they catch and how many creative ideas, characters, everything is flowing out of them. So this is this part. If you have questions, any question, you are welcome to ask, and don't be shy, please. By the way, after this book, two stories. One, I created this book when children came to visit my studio, and they saw me working, and they asked me to teach them. So I taught them this bowl, hot dogs, and pancake method, and they got it immediately. And then I decided, why not to share this method with more children? So I created a book. I filmed it. At that time, it was 4 by 5 inches pictures, negatives, 4 by 5. But I had no time, and I did everything, all the writing, everything, and I was so busy in animation that I had no time to publish it, and it laid in my drawer for 12 years. And then, in some circumstances, I met my publisher, my present publisher, that published with me 20 years before few books. And I told her about it, and she said, come tomorrow and we'll publish the book. But now the medium was digital, and everything was digital. I had to redo it, and we did it, and we printed 2,000 books, and I asked her how long it will take to sell 2,000 books. She said, I believe that in 4 months we'll manage to sell them. It was sold in a week. And then we published 2,500. It sold in a week. 70 weeks it was in the list of bestsellers in Israel. 70 weeks. And why? Because the method is working, and the children can express their amazing creativity with this method. Then we translated to, so far, 12 or 13 languages, and there is one also in Greek. And not only children in Israel can work with this method. Please, questions? You're very shy. Please.
Can you show us a small animation film
Yeah.
to show the result of it?
Okay, I'll do that. Wait a second. I'll find it, and I'll show you. Okay. This is a small commercial. It's for ice creams, and it became very known at Israel at that time. And try to read. I put some translation, but you'll get the feeling. And this is the style of the commercial, which is different from the television series.
יש לכם לוגו כלשהו, לוגו?
לא. רוצה בלידה אחרת?
אתם יודעים איפה אני יכול למצוא לוגו כול?
בקיוסק הבא.
איפה זה?
160 קילומטר דרומה. אז אתה משנה את דעתך.
לא, אבל אני אצטרך קצת בנזין.
לא דקו, חטיף לידה חדש של תן נוגה. לפעמים קשה להשיג אותו, אבל שווה להתאמץ. תן נוגה, רק הטעם ידבר.
Another thing, again about the children, that after a while they suggest to work also with other materials. Great, fantastic. Any material can match with plastelina. There is no limitation. So it's put another dimensions. And now the second thing I wanted to tell you is that after a while, after the books were published, we started to get amazing feedback. People who work with disabled children, with children with problems of concentration and Down syndrome and autism, started to say that it is amazing with children, mostly with children with problems of concentration, that children that could not stay still for 5 minutes can work hours and days and weeks with this method. And they really discover that there is not something that is complicated or too complicated, because it shows them, teaches them that anything that is complicated made out of very, very simple parts. So no intimidation of, wow, I cannot do it, I'm a child. No. So, and since then we built a program of nine meetings of 3 hours for disabled children schools in Tel Aviv, 6 schools, and this is the 4th year that this program is running, and it gets amazing results, and the end product of this 9 meetings of 3 hours is a little book that each child it's his story, filmed by a still camera, not animation, and he gets the book that is totally his creation. Okay, this is this part. We have questions. Now I want to move to the other part, which is young people and not young people, and animation and creativity. I told you that one of the things that encourage creativity is limitation. So when I work with students, it's very obvious. When I give them a mission, a very wide open mission, they are lost. They don't know where to start. But when I give a limitation, wow, their minds start to work, and they start to create solutions, totally unexpected solutions, because they have limitations. And I want to show you. So I happen to teach at Bezalel Academy in Jerusalem, the Art Academy in Jerusalem, students from the 1st year to the 4th year. And I want to show you, at the 1st year, we are not dealing with stop motion, but with the animation thought, how to think animation. And I tell you one thing about it. What is the unique thing about animators? That they look at the world as the world expresses itself by the movement. Because the really raw material of animation is movement. You take, still object and make them move. And the movement is the raw material. So we are looking at the world the way it expresses itself by movement. What do I mean? Everybody do it, but without analyzing. For example, you know that you can recognize a friend of yours from far distance, from 300 meters, which you cannot see any detail of him, only by the walking, the movement of his body language. I'll tell you a story. Once I was in Varanasi, near the river. It was afternoon, late afternoon, with a friend of mine, and 300 meters there were 2 figures walking along the trail. And I told my friend, these are for sure Israelis. Because there was something in the movement that you couldn't mistake. And they came closer and closer, and they talked Hebrew. And you do the same. I'm sure you can recognize people according to the body language. Also different example. When you look at birds, each bird have a totally different way of movement. The little birds are doing this. The big one is doing. Every tree have a different vibe because of the size and shape of the leaves, and when there is a little wind, it moves in a different way. So there is always choreography around us, and animators not only noticing it, but understanding it, and can take this movement and deliver it to the figures, whether the figures are drawn or make out of plasticine or sand or anything. So now let's go back to the students and limitations and animation. And still, if there are questions, I would like to answer those. No, I'll go back to this. We have only half an hour. Wow, okay. In the second year, I teach the students a class of one semester, and I give them between 4 to 5 workshops, and each one is very limited. One example, the workshop is this: light table. They can use salt, sugar, rice, and sometimes 1 grain of bean. And always I give them a subject, so the animation could be done only from this almost nothing. What animation can you do with grain of rice? One grain of rice. You will be amazed. I want to show you. Okay. It's a bit violent, but in a humoristic way. So it's David and Goliath, the Bible story, in the rice and sugar version. It's a character, and the medium is movement. All what you saw is actually movement, and of course soundtrack, which must be creative too. So it's creativity, and it's designing a frame, a scene, you know, this, and you saw it. I want to show you some other things like that. Okay. I want to show. Okay, we'll see this. Maybe you recognize the soundtrack.